What's going on with your music?
Wonderful.
We're gonna wait and see if anybody can guess what it's from.
Well, the challenge is out there in the chat. Does anybody know what this is from?
Sounds like a movie.
It's a movie. Come on, y'all have to. Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh. Woo. If I didn't have anybody who's seen Terminator, I was gonna cry.
Well, thank you for that music, Hurley. We're gonna go ahead and get us started. I've seen Terminator, but I think, what was I, like 5 years old? So I don't know, like the music just, yeah, it's not on my rock shot. But anyway, thank you all for joining SCIP today. Happy summer. We are in the summer month, and how exciting is that? Okay, maybe not 5, Jake. I don't know how old I was. You know me and dates. But so glad everybody could join today. We are excited to bring this topic to you all on artificial intelligence, and just, you know, who better than Hurley Smith to come and talk to us about this. He is definitely someone who is on the early part of adopting new things. And this is one of those things that he has shared with us in our team and in multiple audiences, and is only bringing our level of engagement and of sophistication higher. So I'm going to share my screen because I have, oh, yes, I'll just boot Hurley out. I'm going to share my screen because some of you may not really know Hurley. And so I just wanted to give you this little glimpse into who Hurley is from a technical standpoint. Hurley joined Stanford in 2016, but he's been in this world of improvement for quite some time, working at Baptist Health Systems in San Antonio. He's learned from Toyota Assembly Plant work in Kentucky. He's had tons of mentors. He's certified, he's dignified, he's all those things. But what's even more fun about Hurley is he brings things to you in a way you can engage and connect, and a light bulb comes on. And sometimes in our science, that's not always the case. So we are just extremely excited to have Hurley Smith here with us today to tickle our fancies around the possibilities and the ways that we could elevate our work and improvement and beyond with technology. So Hurley, I'm going to turn it over to you.
No, please. Could you keep doing that? I was really enjoying this. I want to go to all my meetings with an intro from Jacaria. Thank you for that. And I'm really excited to present to this group in particular, because I am so not an AI expert or authority of any kind. I think you'll find in most cases, maybe I'm like a step ahead of you in the AI game, maybe a few steps behind. But this is a group of practitioners that just want to get together and talk about how this stuff can advance our understanding and our practice of improvement science. So I thought a good place to start was, I'm actually kind of interested in getting a temperature check on this group, just about how you're feeling about AI in general. So if you would, go ahead and follow the link in the chat and respond to this survey question for me. Basically, I'm just curious as to what your sentiments towards artificial intelligence are. And your choices are excited, apathetic, fearful, anxious, and yes, if it's all of those things. Also, it's absolutely a true story that I like Jacaria, saw Terminator 2 when I was entirely too young to be watching Terminator 2, but it was on, I've seen that movie so many times. I could basically recite line for line. I could even do it in Arnold's accent. So you can imagine how excited I was to learn that the Skynet prophecy might have some more validity to it than we initially thought. Okay, so we're mostly excited. A handful of you don't know how to feel about all of it, and maybe a little bit of fearful, apathetic. I'm glad there's not too many apathetic, otherwise it'd be a really boring lecture. But let's do one more poll, because I'm also curious just how experienced y'all are with artificial intelligence. I've chosen to focus the content for today on chatbots because we've got to start somewhere, and that's kind of the latest craze right now. So I'm very interested in how much experience you have with AI-driven chatbots. Your choices are use them daily. And by the way, Hurley, I hope you know there's more than just chatbots. Use them occasionally. I do not use them at all. Or what's a chatbot? Okay. This is like almost a uniform distribution. Most of the folks looks like it's occasional use, with a few of us using them all the time, a few of us using them not at all. Good to know. Good to know. Okay, so I have the unique challenge of presenting to a group that is all over the map. Some of you know a lot about chatbots, some of you don't know any at all. And so I thought a helpful way of starting this conversation is one of the more useful applications for chatbots in general. For those of you who have no idea what this is, a chatbot is nothing more than a chat interface similar to the one you use when you text your friends, except instead of a human on the other end of that chat interface, it's artificial intelligence. And a very useful application of these chatbots is using a prompt that's called Explain Like I'm 5, or ELI5 for short. And when you use that prompt, you can ask Skynet, the chatbot, any question that you would like, and it will give you an explanation that presumably you can give to a 5-year-old. So what is artificial intelligence? How might you explain artificial intelligence to a 5-year-old? Skynet says that AI is a type of computer technology that makes machines think and learn like humans. It uses special algorithms and programming to understand information, solve problems, and make decisions. AI can do things like recognizing objects and pictures, understanding and translating languages, playing games, and even having conversations with people. It helps us in many ways, but it's not as smart as a real person because it doesn't have feelings or thoughts like we do. Real quick ask, if you were one of the folks that said you use chatbots, you have access to a chatbot like ChatGPT, do me a favor and edit your name in Zoom and put an A in front of your name. This will help me out when we do breakouts later, because I want to make sure each breakout session does have somebody who has access to a chatbot of some kind. So if you would please edit your name and put an A in front of your name if you have access to a chatbot, know how to use a chatbot. All right, let's ask another question to level our understanding a little bit. What is generative AI? Think of it like a magical machine that can create things on its own. Instead of just following specific instructions, generative AI can come up with new ideas and make things up by itself. It's like having a really smart friend who can think of new stories, draw pictures, or answer questions without being told exactly what to do. If you ask me, this is one of the more breakthrough parts of these chatbots, leveraging this idea, this concept of generative AI, where they are content creators now. They're not just sophisticated search engines. They can create things out of nothing. What's ChatGPT? Explain like I'm 5. ChatGPT is a special computer program that can talk to people and have conversations just like you and I are talking right now. It's designed to be really good at understanding and generating human-like text. It uses something called artificial intelligence, which is when computers are made to think and learn in a similar way to how humans do. Now it gets interesting. What should I be careful about when using ChatGPT? Spoiler alert, in the movie Terminator 2, the machines take over the world and lead to a nuclear apocalypse, right? So I don't think we need to be worried about nuclear apocalypse, but there are some things to be thoughtful about when using these chatbot applications. Number one, and maybe one of the most important ones, sometimes it might not give the right answer. It can't always discern, is what that should say, fact from fiction on the internet, which when I first read this, can I discern fact from fiction on the internet? I think there's a pretty good debate that fact and fiction on the internet is a challenge that even humans have to grapple with. And the answer is pretty much the same for ChatGPT. As it turns out, it was trained on all of the information on the internet and all of its biases and all of its inaccuracies. And they actually have a fun name to describe the phenomenon when ChatGPT gets it wrong. They call it hallucinating. You will be in a situation where you ask ChatGPT a question, and if it doesn't know the answer, it's not just going to say, I don't know. It will give you an answer that is completely incorrect or fabricated or based off of the inaccuracies or incorrect facts that it's been trained with. So very good to know that you can use ChatGPT for its informational advantages, but it doesn't relieve you of the obligation to validate what it is telling you. One last thing on this. So one of the earlier applications that I used chatbots for was in literature review for improvement projects. I hate literature review, or at least I used to, because you'd have to go to these antiquated platforms like PubMed and search for the topic that you're interested in. It was like groundbreaking when I learned that there was a thing called systematic reviews that I could look for that was like a pre-digested version of things, but it's still cumbersome, right? Because you got to read these abstracts, find what you're looking for. So I started using chatbots early on, asking it questions like, hey, what does the literature say about decreasing falls in the hospital? And it would rattle off publications, authors, publication dates, volumes, and I'd say, tell me what that one says. Give me the bullets of what that article says about falls. And the information that it gave me was extremely useful. Some of it became the catalyst of interventions that project ultimately underwent. But here's the kicker. Those articles did not exist. The authors did. Many of the authors really did write things about hospital falls, but they wrote them in other journals on different dates. So ChatGPT, as it turns out, is pretty good at getting information, but really bad at giving people credit for the idea. So I like to think of it as kind of like academic kryptonite, right? If you're really interested in the information, but you really don't care whose idea it was, ChatGPT is for you. But if you're worried about giving credit where credit is due, ChatGPT will get you in trouble real fast. So I highly encourage you still, use it for your research, use it for literature review, but know that it tends to make, I'm sure that link that just got shared in the chat is probably a full analysis of all the things that ChatGPT can do to give you false information. So you have to verify, especially as it relates to publications. But having done a million false projects, damn if those weren't good ideas that we got from it. All right, number 2, be careful with personal information, right? They say it doesn't use your personal information, it doesn't save it. But I also know that ChatGPT knows how to lie. So maybe just don't put personal information in the chat box. It can be easily influenced by opinions on the internet. We talked about that, right? Humans are biased. It was trained on us. So yeah, there is bias inside of ChatGPT, no doubt. And then it might not understand everything. Rephrasing helps. And just generally speaking, prompting is everything with chatbots, right? In fact, there's an entire new field of study called prompt engineering, right? Where people are getting advanced degrees in how to talk to chatbots, because the way that you form your question has a direct relationship with the quality of the information that you get back. So example, explain like I'm 5 can really help you get good information back that's understandable for even a lay person, right? Or you could even say, hey, ChatGPT, pretend to be a really cantankerous teenager and answer this question. And it will, with surprising accuracy. So prompting is everything, and how you ask your question is quite important. But I did want to acknowledge this. Chatbots are just the beginning, and maybe arguably not even the beginning, but they're just one application of how this new brand of artificial intelligence is being used. But there's a whole lot more applications for it, right? You can do PowerPoint presentations with ChatGPT engine. You can write code with it, right? I play an ancient video game that requires Python programming. It's really good. I would say like entry level coding for sure. Like it knows the syntax. It makes it so you can just copy and paste the code and it works. Meeting productivity, right? If you guys check out Microsoft's coming application called Pilot. Pilot is a chat GPT-like interface that's going to live in Microsoft Office as the future. And it's going to do things like take meeting minutes without you even having to think about it. So this meeting right now, there would be an artificially intelligent assistant in this meeting capturing action items for us. If we mention another meeting needing to be scheduled, that artificial intelligence assistant is going to schedule it while we are talking. If somebody was supposed to be at the meeting but missed the meeting, they will get an email with the high-level summary of what we discussed for when they get back to work. Pretty impressive stuff. And then, of course, design. Tremendous capabilities in ChatGPT's 3 and 4 to create and edit photos, videos. I think this is where it starts to get kind of scary, right? Like there's the idea of deepfakes, right? You can make it look like people do or say things that they didn't actually do or say. But all of these products are free. They all have different caveats, right? Like they're free for a while until you use up all your free tokens, whatever. But definitely try them out. I want to show you guys one in particular. This is called Tome, okay? For Tome, just like a chatbot, I might write in this presentation prompt, hey, I've got to give a presentation to a bunch of improvement science nerds, practitioners, and talk about how ChatGPT is helpful in improvement science. How might I approach that? I kid you not, it spit out an outline, which you might not be surprised to learn is very similar to the outline I'm using in this talk, that says, hey, here's how you should talk about it. And it puts together slides, right? It put together an entire slide deck with what I'm supposed to say in order to give this talk. Now, I would never give this presentation, right? I don't like that many words on slides. I don't need a script to read for you, but still pretty impressive how it can get you going with the first draft that quickly. And honestly, I think if there's one, if I could summarize its most useful application in improvement science, it would be this. It gets you a first draft. I'm going to facilitate an endoscopy value stream mapping session this afternoon. It's been 5 years since I've done anything with endoscopy. I don't remember anything about that workflow. I was able to use chatbots to get me a current state rough draft to put in front of the team. So we're not starting from scratch, right? We're going to be editing instead of creating from new. Accelerate, right? Idea generation. Ask ChatGPT. They won't be perfect, but they're good basis points, good starting points for idea generation, first draft generation. But what about AI at Stanford, right? We're Stanford. We're nestled in the heart of Silicon Valley. Surely we're doing this stuff, right? Not as much as you think, but we are doing it. And I can tell you why, not as much as you think. My wife actually works for a research team that specializes in bringing AI solutions to the bedside, right? Because turns out the people writing the code for AI don't know anything about healthcare. Her team sits in the middle. So here are some of the solutions that are coming out at Stanford. ChatGPT-4's large language model is being used to suggest replies to patient messages that come in the inbound. It's also being used to generate physician documentation for clinic visits. So imagine an ambient listener, much like Amazon's Alexa, that listens to the visit and is able to crank out the visit summary so that the physician doesn't have to use a laptop in the room. Patient message categorization in the in-basket, right? So when patients send us messages, half of the battle is just getting it to the right person. And to get it to the right person, you've got to take their volumes of text and categorize them into actionable tasks. That's another way that Epic is actually using their artificial intelligence engine to do that. They're doing something similar to predict clinical deterioration in the inpatient setting. So looking for indicators in the Epic patient health data that say, hey, this patient has this likelihood of deteriorating in the near future. Models like this have existed, by the way, but they were terrible. Like they were less sophisticated than the algorithm that tells you what Netflix show you want to watch tonight. So they've got a little bit of a uphill climb to overcome from change management. From what I understand, the newer versions are quite good. Homegrown mortality model uses the proxy for benefit for patients that could benefit from advanced care planning and end-of-life conversation. I think kind of a similar deal, right? Let's identify these patients that need to have the conversations to facilitate them happening sooner rather than later. So that's an overview of artificial intelligence, chatbots in particular. But let's do some applications, right? Let's get into small groups and see what we can do with this. If Ryan, if you don't mind arranging the breakouts, it looks like we have lots of people that have access to ChatGPT. That would be really helpful. If not, I can do it here in a minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 breakouts if we have time, approximately 10 minutes in your breakout group and then 5 minutes for us to debrief. And each of the 3 breakouts are going to have a specific topic for you to engage with ChatGPT on, or Google's Bard if you prefer, or Bing if you prefer, whichever chatbot you use, I don't care, but use a chatbot, an artificially intelligent chatbot to have this conversation. So here are your objectives in your small group. Number 1, the most important objective, decide who your reporter outer is. So we don't have to spend minutes like listening to silence, figuring out who on your team is going to say what you talked about. So just figure out who that person is going to be in the beginning. 2, engage with ChatGPT on the assigned topic. 3, if you're in a situation where you don't have access to ChatGPT for whatever reason, just come up with prompts that you would ask it. Going off of the number of A's that I see on my screen, everybody should have access to it. Chat.openai.com. If you're interested, you can use your Gmail account that you probably have or your Google account to get access pretty quickly. Things to consider about the topic. What questions and follow-up questions would you ask? How would you ask them? Remember, prompting is everything, right? Exactly how would you ask ChatGPT for that information? And once you get it, what would you do with it? What precautions might you take, knowing some of the limitations that this technology has? Any questions about your objectives in these small group assignments?
No question, but I'll just add, maybe we give a couple more minutes so people have a chance to introduce themselves when you get there.
Oh, yeah. Sure. You mean in the small group?
Well, so
yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
So actually, yeah, I would like to, before we jump into that, I want everyone to use the mural site that we have, because on it, I've got the instructions for all the breakout groups, and I've got the icebreaker. So I'm going to put that in the chat for everybody. And I do have the breakout rooms all ready to go, but I want to give a quick overview of what the mural looks like before we jump in. Okay, so maybe we can take a deep breath after that really interesting conversation and presentation, and then let me just orient to a few things. Okay, so a few things to keep in mind. We've got breakout groups. So if you're in team 1, you will be doing this breakout question. You'll be going through that. But before you jump into the business side of it, please let's do the icebreaker question. Each one of the teams has the icebreaker questions. For today, it's what is your greatest fear, apprehension, or frustration with modern technology, AI? Introduce yourself. Part of this group is connecting with people. Surely we want to know about new technologies, new techniques, methods, but we want to build community here. That's the big part of what we're doing. So introduce yourself, where you work, maybe even a little bit what you're doing this weekend, and this question. Okay, then you can jump into the world of ChatGPT. Team 2, here's your question, bonus, etc. And you can add your whatever it spits out, responses, other learnings in the area below. I've put it, given every group a section. So you all have different sections. Team 3, there's only going to be 3 of our teams. It's team 3 questions right there. Okay. So you all have the link. It's in the chat. You can go ahead and do that. I'm going to put us into breakout teams. And according to the agenda, looks like we've got about 20 minutes. Well, yeah, let's go with 17 minutes. We'll go 17 minutes with breakouts. I'll set it. I'll close the rooms when we're ready, and then you'll need to self-select. I've broken everyone into groups. Everyone should have some people experience with, who looks like some people have dropped off, who were the A's, or maybe they took the A's off their name after.
We lost a lot of folks at the half hour.
We did. We lost. So let me see. I think we're probably still okay. Looks like we've got a good mix. Okay. So we've got a few teams that are a little smaller than others, but that's okay. Okay, here we go. I'm going to open the rooms and you can all jump in.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I still see some people getting after it in the mural. That's awesome.
You got it. In group one, I had problems writing on mural. I'm a mural man and got messed up on that one, but I took some physical notes.
No worries. All right, my reporter outers. Who can tell me what you guys talked about?
We're group number one, and we actually had a lot of apprehensions about that. And I thought that was the most interesting. Lisa says, her husband is good at AI, but he's not good at being able to train her when it comes to AI. So she has a source there, but it's going to be tough. But the apprehension was about using it as the source of truth versus a guide. And we were leaning towards the guide. So Mr. Hurley came in and helped us with some prompts. And what we first thought was like that question was too broad. And I think it was Mary mentioning that, hey, if it's too broad, we need to narrow it down. And so our first question was, hey, we've been asked to do this. Can you guide us on how to investigate this? And it came up with, I believe, 11 steps that were actually pretty good. Again, that guide material. So then the follow-up question is, my VP's, most interested in a score for transition of care. How do we improve that? And, what do they do at other academic medical institutions? And again, we got some stuff there, but this was more standard stuff that you would see in HealthStream, CI Care type stuff. It just kind of very obvious. And one of it was, make sure you communicate. Well, duh. And then, so we did a third prompt is, can you tell me more about enhancing communication? So we took it step by step, getting some material from the AI and asking questions. So we prompted AI, which in turn prompted us to ask more questions by the material it gave there. And we had a few more questions along the way, but that conversation was beneficial.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Brendan. Yeah. And I'll say that to your last point, I think that's where I don't get too intimidated by the people who say, oh, it can hallucinate. It can say the wrong thing. Once you've worked with it for a while, you'll realize that what it speaks to is general and vague enough that it's really hard to dispute, right? Like, it advised us at one point to pull together an interdisciplinary team and come up with a structured handoff process for like care transitions. I mean, who hasn't been on an improvement team that landed in that place, right? I mean, that is almost certainly what you're going to end up doing. Right now, if it said you need to use this tool with these questions, I might be a little bit more apprehensive about the validity. But yeah, I think you'll find that it'll start general, and as you ask questions, you can get it to be more specific. But yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid of it being inaccurate sometimes, because almost 100% of the time it is actionable, the information that it gives.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Who are my other reporter outers?
Carolyn, do you want to take ours or do you want me to?
You can take it.
Okay. So we decided to use both ChatGPT and Bing. and do a comparison. And what we found was that ChatGPT gave much more specific, it gave more comprehensive and more specific answers than ChatGPT. So our initial question was, I want to study which patients are best to refer to home versus staying in post-acute care, which medical conditions, psychosocial diagnosis, family factors, et cetera, should we use? And ChatGPT created whole categories and gave very specific things, such as look at vital signs, where Bing said, oh, let me repeat the question that you just said. And then within each of the categories that you already gave me, here are a couple things to look at. Let me rephrase the question. This is really important. And then we asked a follow-up question of, are there risk scores that we can use? ChatGPT gave 5 options, Bing gave 1, and that 1 was not one of the 5 that ChatGPT gave. So we thought that was really interesting.
That is super cool. And I will say too that if you are in a situation where you need to be clear about your source information, right? So for example, if I'm just asking for improvement ideas, just need general ideas for something, I'll use ChatGPT all day long. But if I'm trying to convince an audience of something and I need to cite my sources, Bing all day, because Bing will actually include clickable annotations that will show you where it's getting its information. So that's another advantage to Bing as well. Very cool insights. All right, let's hear from another group.
So for team 3, we had this prompt about a leadership question about team members who are dominating team meetings. And so we literally just put it into ChatGPT. We tried version 3.5 of ChatGPT and version 4 as a little bit of side-by-side comparison as well. And for the prompt, we just said, how would you solve this? And then just pasted in the exact description of the assignment, including the breakout 3 leadership, tag. And then ChatGPT rattled off 9 or 10 different suggestions. And as other team members mentioned, it's kind of, high level, a little vague, a little generic, but, could be actionable with more detail. So then we said, okay, for like the number 1 example, which was collect feedback from the meeting participants. We said, give me some examples of how might you, do number 1, and then it would give another set of bullet points around what are some more detailed action items. So kind of drilling into kind of asking to get more specific. And 3.5 and 4, between the two, they were different. Some were similar, but they were a different set of 10 suggestions for solving this particular situation.
Awesome. Love it, Sandeep. Cool. Yeah, I think the one takeaway from what you said, Sandeep, for me, and I think it's a really important one for all of us to consider as we move forward with chat technology, is we've got to break through our baseline of normal for search engines, which is ask a question and you get an answer in one shot, right? I think that a huge part of the value to these is follow-up questions, right? Because it is going to give you general answers to probably what is in response to a general question that you ask it. Don't let it get away with things like, oh, well, you should consider improving your communication. What? No. What do you mean by that? Tell me how. And improve it how? Tell me exactly how I should improve it, right? And also, where did you get that information, right? What are you basing this off of? Really press it for specific, press it for detail. And I think you'll find it extremely useful, not only for the research portion of your project where you're just trying to figure out what is known on a particular topic, but also in the root cause analysis and idea generation, right? Your team no longer have to start with a blank slate where we say, okay, what ideas do y'all have? It can be, hey, here are some ideas that Skynet has. What do we think about these? Do we like them, or do we think they suck and need to be something else? It's, I think, a really cool technology to begin integrating into your improvement work. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it back over to Ryan. He said he's got some announcements and updates for all of y'all, but thank you for playing along with me. Enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your week.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hurley. That was really, really fun. I feel like we could do that all afternoon. We don't have the time, unfortunately, but maybe we could build on this for next week, or next month when we come together. I would like to highlight a few things before we leave, so hang with me for a second. You all have the link to the mural. I put it in the chat already. Again, this is something you can refer to all the time. I have the article that we put as the pre-read in here. I also have something that I want everyone to be aware of. This is the Lean Healthcare Academic Conference. If you haven't checked it out on SMCI's website, which I have actually over here, you can access information about the Lean conference right from the homepage. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, that's not it. You can actually access the website. I'll just reference it. You can get to all this, smci.stanford.edu. You can access the program here. You can register for the conference. There's still time to do an abstract. By this Friday, you can put an abstract in. So check that out. Also on SMCI's website, you can access all of our recordings from all of these, and I'll post ours later today. So you have that. If you wanted to share it with someone, you could do that. If you like the content and wanted to re-listen, or you wanted to share it and say, hey, you should check this group out, we welcome anyone to this group. So continue to share the word. Also, if you do register for the conference, you are part of SCIP. We are putting together, last year we had mugs. This year we are going to be doing caps. Thanks to Michael Powers, who is helping me with this. We're going to be this is a prototype. It's going to look slightly different than this. Oh, Michael has one, he's wearing it. That's probably the same one. And we're looking at white and maybe black. So I'm curious about that. But we will have that for those that go to the Lean conference, and you will get a hat. So another motivation to attend the Lean conference. Also, I've put on here the article referenced in the meeting by Vasily, and the AI, the site that Hurley mentioned, the Tone site there. So what I would like you to do with the last couple minutes, and I know some of you have got to go, but I really, really would appreciate it if you would take some time and add comments to the bottom. What I like, what I wish, what I wonder today. So just double click, add post-its, spend some time now. If you don't have time right now, come back to it, and I'll check it at the end of the day, because I really, really value your feedback, also for what you liked about this, but also what you'd like us to look at for the future. One final bonus thing as you're doing that, I put in ChatGPT. I asked it to help with a promo piece for SCIP, and if you want, take a look at it. And I asked it several things, but one of the last things I asked it is, do it in the form of like a movie trailer. And so when you read it, it kind of sounds like a movie trailer. I tried putting in dad jokes and things. It didn't really land as powerfully as I would have liked, so I pulled them out. But they had some, so that was kind of fun too. So anyway, we are about out of time, and I feel like this was not near enough time for all of us to get together, and that's always feedback from everyone. It's like, I wish this was a longer meeting, and maybe we'll do that. Also, one other thing, final. At the Lean conference, we will be having an in-person get-together. So that's another motivation to be there. All right. Thank you all so very much for coming today. Thank you, Hurley, for spending time researching in ChatGPT, AI, and sharing your knowledge with us, even if you're a step ahead or maybe a few behind some of the people in the group. Really appreciated your candidness and your vulnerability for that. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Have a wonderful long weekend. Bye-bye.